please let me know in the chat or in the comments. Actually, it says chat for me, but it's comments for you. If you can see me, if you can hear me, if everything's working properly before I bring up my famous guest, Doug Cower. No relation. Want to make sure that's clear. But I just want to make sure this is all working because this is the first time in a very long time that I've gone live on Be Live. I've been mainly pre-recording. So I just want to make sure. And then, of course, I get all these chat restrictions. You can't post comments to some destinations due to these platforms' restrictions. So we'll see how that works. I guess my LinkedIn profile is those. YouTube, I can see you. And Facebook, it's got some black checks, some red checks. So we'll see what happens. So if you can write in the chat to let me know if you can see and hear me, I'll get started. And while I'm waiting for that, either way, this will be recorded so I can always edit it later. I'm bringing up Doug Cower of Cower Guitars.
Hello.
Got to do my little air guitar opportunity.
Yep.
So, how is it where you are, and what have you been up to today?
Oh, it's good. It's, California in February, so it looks like summer already. And no, it's great.
It's
And
great
I'm
for
not at the
you,
shop
but I'm
today,
in
which is
North
nice.
Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's fake advertisement when it's pretty and sunny. It's cold still here. Well, it's warming
Yeah.
up, but yeah.
Well, you
So
guys won't be on fire for half the year, so that's
then
the
there's that.
flip side.
Then there's that. We have the humidity, which I think helps a little bit with,
Yep.
the dryness that California is known for being in a desert and all. But man,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I still would
been
rather
tough.
live there sometimes.
It's hard to beat it. I mean, Sacramento's claim to fame is we're 2 hours from everything better, as I'm sure you know.
That
It's kind of my
count?
speed here. We can get out to the coast when we want, or go up to the mountains or whatever. And hey, I'm not at work today. I'm very happy. This is very nice.
Granted, what you do for work is pretty spectacular. I mean, so tell everyone how Cower Guitars came to be. Like,
Sure.
when did that little bubble in your head say, I want to design my own guitar? And you actually
So
followed through on it.
yeah, so my dad, who literally just retired last month, finally, um, he started a cabinet shop. I mean, we started in our garage. I shouldn't say we. I was like 5 years old. But since
I heard
child
about your
labor,
child labor laws.
oh yeah, they don't apply to family. So I was in the garage at 5 years old helping out.
I can
Um,
relate. I
but
can
he
relate.
he got into doing like, it's kind of a weird story, but there's these like 60s made multi-tools called shopsmiths. They're like a drill press combination vertical horizontal boring machine. So, and because he was into building cars and he worked for Stockton Dotson at the time, he would just kind of collect these things.
Wow, Dotson, you're
Oh
really
yeah,
taking it back. Throwback
way
Thursday.
way old.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I grew up in a 510.
I don't remember that. I remember in movies, but I don't remember what they look like. So,
Yeah,
wow. Yeah.
but yeah, he got into restoring these things for some reason. I don't know, because just that's how he is, and so he started making little like furniture things with them, and then it became making furniture for the neighbors, and then mantles, and started getting more into cabinets, and then eventually he started renting a shop space that was like halfway between our home and where his regular job was,
Okay.
and then eventually quit and went full time doing cabinet work, and so. I just grew up doing it with him, and then in the mid 2000s, uh, this piece of maple came into the shop that was really pretty. And like, when we buy material, especially like we were going to make crown molding or something out of it, right? You just
Mhm.
get 50 sticks or whatever. And just happened to be one was really nice. And I was like, I should build a guitar from this because I played guitar and I
Yeah.
kind of worked on guitar. I mean, messed around with my own guitars a little bit. And I said something to my girlfriend at the time, my wife now,
Mhm.
and her dad did like, because I actually met her because she ended up being the singer in the band that I had in high school, and I knew her family because they were kind of the local band
Yeah.
in Elk Grove, which is the town I grew up in, and it wasn't a huge town at the time, so we would play. We all kind of would run into each other. So I actually
Wait,
knew
but
her
your
dad.
dad also played the guitar as well, though,
Yep,
right? So,
yep.
Not just
Yeah.
the woodworking or cabinetry, but also the music
Yep.
side, both from your
Yeah,
dad.
exactly.
Did your
Yeah,
mom do anything? Like, what was she up to?
she did
Just
piano a little bit.
okay.
She's artistic in her own way, just not
Oh,
musically. Like she
okay.
does a lot of art and craft stuff, and Elk Grove has like a
Ah.
big county fair every year called Western Festival, and she used to run the art exhibit. So like
Oh,
she was
wow.
responsible for, she basically made it what it is. Like she would
So
work with
it
all the local
still
high
all
schools.
integrates because you paint. You're the painter of the
Yep.
guitars, right? And
Yep.
I don't know if you
So
know this, but the artwork behind it is by my mom. So we
oh,
have that in
nice.
common of having parents that are artists. And my earrings, every earrings I
Yes.
wear, they're all handmade by my mom.
My
Paper
mom can
earrings.
do drawing and painting, and I can't
Okay.
draw a guitar to save my soul. Like I am hopeless with pen and paper or anything like that.
Yeah,
Uh, but
I can
physically
relate.
making things, I was always good at. Anyway, this piece of maple came in, and I said something in passing to my girlfriend at the time, and her dad, I think, was just waiting for that synapse in my brain to connect that, like, oh, he's woodworked for 20 years at this point. He could probably build a guitar.
Yeah.
And so he got me a bunch of parts and parts and hardware to build this first guitar, and I started on it. And it kind of was serendipitous because around 2000, my dad was the first cabinet shop in the area to have a CNC machine, so computer controlled CNC router. But I had taken AutoCAD my senior year of high school. It's kind of convoluted.
Look,
As a
again,
what?
bringing back
Yeah,
old school stuff. Hadn't
yeah.
heard that in a while.
Oh man. Well, like
I mean,
it
I guess
worked out my senior year. I had the option of going on to calculus, and I knew that was pre-calc was my off ramp. Like I hit that, and I'm like, nah, I'm done with math. This is as far
yeah,
as I'm going to
same.
go. And so I
Mhm.
took AutoCAD as a whatever kind of throwaway class, and it ended up. This is before we bought the CNC machine. Well, to draw and program a CNC machine, it's all AutoCAD based. So it kind of everything came together, and it became kind of my unofficial job in the shop to be the guy who programmed the machine. And once I got used to like, oh, we can make this thing for a kitchen balance or a mantle, it started becoming like, well, what else can I make on this? And
Right.
started making more things, and then the guitar thing just kind of happened that way. So I did that, and then I made Strat and Telly bodies, which are kind of the go-to everybody has, and they were good learning things. And then I started making kind of my own designs, and then the recession hit, and the cabinet work completely
Wait,
came
which
to a
one?
stop.
The
Yeah,
2006, 7, 8,
2008.
15?
Yeah, I know, right? I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right when we left, LA was
Yep.
right before the recession hit, and we were like,
Oh man.
"Perfect timing,"
Yeah, we
because my
bought our
husband was
first
working in
house.
real estate too,
Uh
so yeah.
we
Yeah.
bought our first house in '07, and yeah,
Mm.
good timing.
Yeah,
Uh, but
sorry.
yeah, there was no cabinet work to do, so I was just making more guitars, just for fun, and kind of pass the time because I had nothing else to do. And uh, I was a third of the way through my teaching credential out of school. My wife was two-thirds of the way through hers when people started buying the guitars that I was, or bugging me for the things that I had designed for fun. And I just kind of fell into it from there. I was adamant that I wasn't going to take something I enjoyed doing and turn it into a business because I had kind of made that mistake in the past with my other hobbies. And,
Mhm.
usually it was like just enough to get myself a wholesale license and buy what I want for my hobby at cost. And then, but it would just ruin it every time I'd start helping friends out, and it would just be this pain in the
Can we
butt.
talk about that for a minute, though? Because I mean, I feel this on a like sometimes I get really close to quitting it all because I'm like,
Hmm.
why am I even putting myself out here
Yep.
doing all this work, trying to help other people with the idea of like, oh, pay it
Yep.
forward, all of that, and looking out for your community or what, the people that you feel would look out for you, but then
Yeah.
they only ever want the freebies or friend, like they only want to hang out with you when you get the free tickets to the comedy show. Like,
Yeah.
famously, Oprah says, "Everybody wants to ride in the limo, but nobody wants to help you when it's a flat tire." Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
so
pretty
I
on
can
point.
relate,
Yeah.
100% because I go through that every season
Yeah.
where I'm like, "Oh, that's my last season. I'm not doing this anymore. It's too like,
It's a lot of work.
rich people don't need my help." I'm a UPS wife working in an acting field in
Sure.
North Carolina,
Yep.
like they don't need me. But at the same time, I can't stop because I love it. So I
Yeah.
try to find other ways of making it sustainable for me and making it where I get to meet people like you, and really
Sure.
get to share great stories because you've done a
Yeah.
lot of great things. And we've been like instrument talkers for a few years here now. And
Well,
even my in-laws got to come visit you for Cower Fest, which was fun.
that was
So
amazing, actually. It was what's crazy about that is,
yeah.
I mean, as you know, Cower is such an odd last name. It's,
Mhm.
uh, to know
German,
to
Irish. Yeah,
yep,
it's a little
to
bit of
run
both.
across another one and then to find out that your in-laws live, I mean, like,
Mm.
as a stone through from where my strain of Cowers lived,
Yeah.
not all that far. I think, mine are
Well,
Mountain
my
Dew.
husband grew up in Novato.
Yeah,
So,
and
like, you
had
guys were
no
kinda
idea
in
there
the
was a whole 'nother
neighbors.
strain that close.
And they have,
Uh
like, 11 siblings or 12 or a dozen. Might as well say a
Uh,
dozen.
there's the Catholic side of Cower right there, I'm
Oh,
sure.
very Irish. Yeah. The buck stopped there, though. Yeah, one and
Yeah,
done. Yeah.
two was too many for us. I mean, we have them both, but good
Yeah.
God, I'm glad we stopped. But
Well, yeah. So
yeah,
talk about that. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs fall in that pit, or even people who work in the art field, or I
sure.
don't know what hobbies they were for you, but a lot of times they feel like if something comes naturally to you, that it's dispensable, that they can just take advantage of and just keep
Yeah.
like draining the heck out of you. So, how did
It's
you?
it's funny because it's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. Well,
Mhm.
s but the so I had no idea when I got into this, there was a whole community of guitar builders. Like, I didn't it just wasn't it's not that it wasn't a thing, I wasn't aware of it. I
Yeah.
played
You don't know what
guitar
you
in
don't
high
know.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I read Guitar World and all that stuff, and it just didn't talk about all these little independent things, and I think, the internet's kind of obviously what gave everybody their exposure, because there
Mhm.
are
An
definitely
even
builders.
playing field in that
Oh,
sense.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there are vintage boutique builders, air quote, who go way back that, even back then I didn't know about, but know about now. But the funny thing was, so I got into it and I kind of, it's like, I still have my full-time job and I was doing it on the side. And
Yeah.
there's a big industry trade show called NAM every year in Anaheim. And, I did my same old routine. I got my license, my seller's permit, so I could go get stuff at wholesale and take advantage of doing like some events. And so I went down. I had a friends like, oh, you got to go meet this guy, and you got to meet this guy, and you got to meet that guy, and talk to them. And so that was in January. And I
Mm.
remember like that was kind of my first exposure to the whole industry as a whole, but like these little pockets of small builders that were there. And one was named Nick Huber out of Germany. And I remember at the time, this is 2009, I think, or
A German
2008.
connection coming in again.
Oh,
I
yeah.
used to live in Germany, so
Oh, nice.
yeah, I speak German, yeah. Sprechen Sie
Fantastic.
kein Witze Deutsch.
We'll
That's it.
we'll touch
Yeah.
back on the pandemic ruining our last Berlin trip, but still,
Oh, I wanna go to Berlin so bad. When I lived there, the wall was still up, so that
oh man,
speaking of
that's
old
crazy.
school.
Yep,
Yeah, but my, partner, she lives in Berlin, so I'm like, "See, now I
sure.
got a reason to go."
Oh, you can
Yeah.
have my tickets that are still on hold. Yeah,
Well, we won't talk about tickets on
yeah.
hold because I was supposed to cover the, Super Bowl this past week, some of the red carpets and
Ah.
a certain person I love very much. Yeah. So
Yeah,
anywho,
but
but
yeah. So I met him, and I remember at the time thinking like, oh my god, every guitar on that table was like 5 grand, and
whoa.
they're all sold within the first day. And it wasn't like I can jump in on this money train too. It was more like, man, I hope I could be like that someday.
Right.
And so that was January. And then the very first guitar show that I actually attended that I was showing at was in Montreal later that year. And it was really early, like maybe the first 40 official guitars I had built at that point. Like I was in the first well within the first 100, maybe probably in the first 50. And I
Okay.
remember I got there. This is lame. It was the first time I needed a passport, like, like to go to Canada, like you go to the passport office and they're like, "Oh, where are you going?" I'm like, "Canada." They're like, "Oh, okay, here's your passport. That's exciting. Have fun in Canada." You know. And
Hey,
so
it's a
I flew
metropolitan
out,
area.
and my wife, I think, it was her first year of teaching full time, or I think she was out of student teaching in full, so she didn't go. And so I went, big solo trip, and I walked into that show, and Nick Huber and these other guys I met were like, "I am so glad you're here. We've been following you. I'm so excited for you." And I'm thinking, you meet like 5,000 people easily through those
Yeah.
4 days at NAM. 6 months ago, I'm a nobody who just said hi a couple days in a row, and I had such a good time at that show. I sold a guitar. I definitely got massively drunk at the party, and I'm pretty sure that's why the next year was not open bar at the builders party they had. And it was cool because it was part of the Montreal Jazz Festival, so it was just
Oh,
everything's going on in the
fun.
city, and
Yeah.
I came home and quit my job, which was not saying much because I was working for my dad, but I was like, I want to do this full time. I
It's like,
don't.
"You can come back whenever you need me. I'm glad
Yeah,
you're
well,
following your passion."
he
And yeah.
I think we're out of the statute of limitations. He technically fired me so I could get
Oh,
my California small business loan that I had been paying into my entire working career and
see, now
draw
that's
unemployment for a little
family.
while. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that is a good family nepotism story,
Yeah,
like,
that one worked
truly
out.
helping out their son, because that's a conversation I was just having today with a friend, that so many times people are like, uh, "I'm gonna do this on my own." Like, we were talking about Nicolas Cage with him changing his
Sure.
name so people wouldn't know he was a Coppola, and, I mean, it's everybody knows at this, like, it's the worst kept secret in Hollywood.
Sure.
But, um, I just was like, why wouldn't you wanna help your siblings or
Yeah.
family, especially if they are talented and, and in
Sure.
your case, like, it's as if, like, paying for like, once they turn 18, you're supposed to kick them out and be like, "Good
Yep.
luck, you're a stranger now. I'm not gonna help you pay," because, I mean, I had to pay my own way for college. I had to do everything
Sure.
myself. So, I mean, granted, when you're paying
Well,
for a divorce, you can't
I
really
won't.
do all that.
Yeah.
But, still, I'm glad parents take note.
Well,
You
and
yeah.
I worked there for again since I was in some. I actually had the
For
realization.
free too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Mhm.
got paid eventually when I was old enough to get paid, but like
Okay.
as of this year, because dad is retired, I will have started working more calendar years in that shop than my. I mean, not cumulative days or years,
Right, right.
total time, but I've always been in that shop in one form or another since I was 5. I mean, at 6 years old.
Yeah.
I had famously the choice growing up. My mom said you could go to summer school or you could go work at the shop. And my brother and I could not be at the same place all summer long. So he would go to summer school and I would go to the shop, and or sometimes vice versa, but generally it was always there. So
Mhm.
I got to do that, and so sometimes I think people get this perception like, oh, you just got handed this shop. I put the sweat equity in, first of all.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so for the first few years of the business, I kind of worked out of the shop and I would still take on occasional side work just to kind of help make things work to the
Yeah.
point where it got kind of self sustaining. And then eventually, the way our shop is laid out, I think 3 or 4 years, I think 3 years in, I took over the lease for there's 2 units technically. So we have like a 6,000 square foot shop, but it's two 3,000 foot spaces. So I took over the lease for that side. And
Mhm.
then, incrementally kind of over time took up more and more expenses and stuff. And so I was able to kind of ease in, but it wasn't free. Like and I've had
Right,
to
right.
buy equipment and,
No, I mean, yeah, you're
do
working
things
with
that,
very expensive lumber, which is, I wonder now, is that hard for you? Because there's been so many issues with getting, like,
yeah,
yeah.
that surprisingly lumber it's gone up in price, but it hasn't been difficult to get for us. It's
Okay.
one of the few things I can actually get consistently still. And we're pretty efficient between the range of models that I'm making. I don't want to waste anything. So, I have a good relationship with the mill and the lumber supplier
Mhm.
and the importers, and we can bring in what we need size wise. So we're not wasting much, and then it works out pretty well. But everything else has been a nightmare. It's been
Oh, no.
it's it's I'm in that realm of I think between not being able to go do events for the last 2 years or travel, or every time we think we're going to be able to do something, you get the next
Cancel.
variant comes along and
Yeah.
blows it up, and then constant supply issues. I definitely am in that same burnout point that you're at. Like
Mhm.
I just kind of wiped. Like I was talking to
Yeah.
another the in the same version of why I got into this because the community of builders is so amazing. I think in the 1,000 people I know that do this for a living, two are jerks. Like that's amazing. Like
Mm.
I don't even have that ratio with my family. Like I think we're at 50-50 with the extended family. Like
Yeah, I'm like, "How many family members do I have
yeah.
blocked?" Just kidding.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
never did the
amazing.
ratios of it. No, but, that's a very good point you're touching on as far as, like, having that community around you to really help you through all of
Yeah.
this and being able to make those relationships with your suppliers so that well, the ones that you can anyway,
Yeah.
and being American made as well, like, they're probably, like, I don't know,
Oh,
like, there's that
it's tough.
camaraderie there too, but,
Yeah, the building community is generally, if you're not ripping somebody else off, you're in the club. And because none of us get rich doing this, like, I had an Instagram post yesterday about this product we use for one step in the process, and I got 3 texts from friends like, "Hey, can you give me the details on that?" And I like, "Yeah, here's where we buy it. This is the product. This is the mix time. This is how
yeah,
long you got to use it. Here's all the info. Have at it." I don't care. And somebody
yeah,
did that for me. I think actually, ironically, Taylor Guitars, which is one of the biggest guitar companies in the world, they're the ones that gave me the info in the first place. So, and
mhm,
actually, amazingly, Taylor. So we're having one of the many supply side issues. We're out of a certain product we use for the finishing, and for whatever reason, it's all fun excuses. I won't have it for 3 weeks, and that means I can't do anything. I can't paint any guitars for the next 3 weeks, and Taylor actually is bailing me out because they used the same product. They've moved on to another version of it that's a little
oh,
different. So they
great.
had some excess supply, and like I called my buddy over there, and I'm like, "There's no chance you guys have any of this, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'll sell you some." And so it'll be here tomorrow. I'm thank God.
No,
Uh, you know,
no, I'm glad you brought that up too, because 'cause I'm always giving free information. Granted, I'm done doing free one-on-one. Like, I'm done. Like, it's too time consuming, it's too much anxiety of the whole thing, because 'cause I'm
Yep,
expecting it to be a sponsorship opportunity, and then they're just, information grab for starting their own
yep,
podcast. Just ask, I'll tell you. I teach classes on it for free.
yep.
So, just attend those. I mean, you have to pay to attend those, I do believe, but whatever. Um, I always say that I can give you the exact same ingredients, it doesn't mean it's the same sauce, and at the same
That's
time, it
just it.
it elevates your community. If you're all giving the same gold standard service, but it
Yeah.
fits different niches or whatever, then, it just makes you look better. Because 'cause I'm sure most guitar players don't buy just one brand of guitar. I know I don't
Not
buy
usually.
just one brand of shoe, not comparing guitar to shoes, but I'm just saying that's part of my work wardrobe. I
Yeah.
gotta change it up for the looks or design, or maybe I have, something I wanna match or whatever, whatever it
Oh,
may be, or just changing. I mean, I know you don't do left-handed ones, but not that I'm
well, we do lefty
left-handed.
guitars,
Oh,
but
you
oh
do?
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
See, my
got
research is
we
wrong.
ironically we hadn't done any in 2 or 3 years. We don't build them
Oh,
unless people order them. But
well, I'm
uh,
right-handed anyway, so it's
yeah.
not my issue, but
Oh man,
there's
ironically,
so many different.
my
Yeah.
father-in-law, my brother-in-law, my wife, and both kids are all lefties. I'm like, if any of you guys play guitar, and my father-in-law was lefty until the nuns beat it out of him. So he plays righty, and my wife plays right-handed. But yeah, oh yeah, I'm the only righty in a field of lefties, which I think means I probably should get my college funds going for my kids right now. They'll be hopeless.
And
So
handwriting specialist
yeah.
coming from also,
Oh
my
man.
mom and I are both right-handed, but everybody around us is
Yep.
left-handed too, so it's like, and you're not even a doctor
Oh,
with that handwriting, but
mine's terrible. I realize
mm,
now. I think the only thing I handwrite are checks. So it's like I don't write anything. My
mm.
6-year-old's got way better handwriting than me.
Oh, that's good.
She's yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's so amazing. As amazing as the community is, I do run into the with sometimes on the artist side, you run into that I want something for free or I want this, and I'm like, but I've been really fortunate. We have good artists who play our stuff, and I'm very upfront. I'm like, everybody pays for their first guitar. I have artists that I have such established relationships with now. They do get things for free sometimes, but usually what they get for free is like, hey, I'm futzing out this new model. It's maybe not perfect, or it's not.
I love it.
It's got some
Yeah,
ideas that would you be willing to take that test it out for me? And that's kind of more how I do it. But like,
yeah. It's like
uh,
sampling or like
yeah,
market research in a
yep.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Or
yeah.
sometimes, like, even then, like, if I have to break in somebody new in the shop, especially on the finishing side, at a certain point, you're just gonna have to do it on a guitar and hope for
We
the
have a
best
fan.
that hey, uh, hey,
It's
all
my
right,
husband. Yeah. All right, look, let me
yeah.
not get him in trouble. He might not be on a on a break. Just kidding.
Oh man. But you gotta hope for the best that it comes out good in the end, or be willing to sacrifice a couple guitars that maybe come out 95% good on the finish, but not perfect. And then so I have people that I have relationships with, like, the guy is going out and playing this thing on stage is not going to care if there's a dust speck in the back or something. And so
Mm,
that tends to be how it is. But,
yeah.
I've definitely had to tell people, I'm like, hey, man, exposure doesn't pay my bills.
Not at all. I
It
tried once with my mortgage. I said, "Let
they
me just
don't.
see what happens if I sign exposure." They Penny Mac sent it back. They did not think that was fun. No, I'm kidding. I didn't really do that. I think they would arrest me for that,
Oh
for
man.
forgery or something. I don't know.
Yep.
But, I wanna make sure because you are a business owner and I wanna be considerate of your time. We
No,
have to talk about your big fundraiser you did where you kinda gave away a guitar, but not really.
yeah. So, when the pandemic hit, when my trip to Berlin was canceled, yay, there we go.
Yeah.
Brought it full circle.
I
Uh,
see what you mean.
but
Yeah.
when we got the shelter in place order and I walked out of the shop thinking, this is it, I can keep the shop going by myself. When it's down to that just by myself, it doesn't take, I can keep things, I won't lose the shop. I
Right.
knew that was okay, but I was really sure I was going to lose. I have 6 employees at the time. Think I might be able to kick one of them. I thought, oh, this is it. I had everybody file for unemployment. And I didn't know it was gonna happen. And I remember, like, I was driving home and I had a guy from Nashville call. It's like, hey, I got a small store, and it was a little bit below or usually our dealer requirements, but I was like, man, hey, whatever. I got guitars sitting here that were supposed to go to this show. If you want those, I'll send them out tomorrow. And anything to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
Or keep us afloat till we could reopen. And then I had a bunch of customers kind of rally, because I put it on Instagram. I'm like, I have no idea when we can go back to work, what's going to happen, and I don't know how I'm going to pay my employees. But I will make you here's an incentive offer. If you're willing to put stuff on order, and you know that I don't know when we can start on it, I'll give you some extra price breaks. And we had a bunch of people rally and put stuff on order. And that got us through until, because, this was before they were even discussing PPP loans and stuff. And so we had
Yeah.
no idea what was going to happen.
Especially
So
for
that,
gig workers. So a lot of, like, people who were
yep,
playing
yep.
guitars weren't really
Oh,
in a
yeah.
position where they could afford to get a new
Yep.
guitar even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that got us through. And then we were able to get like a small PPP loan. And then ironically, like 3 months in, I started getting panicky emails from stores that were still able to at least ship and do business. They're like, what did you got? We've sold everything. We have nothing.
Yeah.
We'll take anything you got. And in retrospect, it made sense because everybody was stuck at home and
And taking up
guitar
new
playing went
hobbies.
through the roof. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And
my daughter went through the phase of wanting a new
yeah,
guitar, and then a
and
skateboard was what it finally ended up being, which is
yep.
sitting in my garage, so kinda
Yeah.
wish you went with guitar.
Oh man. And like
Yeah.
our customer base is not like the first time guitar player base, but I
Right.
think what ultimately ended up happening is people stopped paying daycare, people stopped going on vacation, people couldn't
Mm.
buy a boat or go on that trip. So it kind of all of a sudden, like, even though I couldn't bring everybody back to the shop, I started going back to work. And I pretty much went back to work because if I'm by myself, what's the difference? And try to keep things going. And so that was kind of at the beginning, first 3 or 4 months, and then all of the things that happened 2020 over the summer and stuff. We kind of just, I had an artist. She's fantastic. After George Floyd, she kind of hit this thing on the nose when we were talking in private, and like how we were both, I was talking about how frustrating this is, and she goes, "No, I mean, it's terrible, but
Yeah.
people are seeing what we've been saying on a scale that's not the same."
Mhm.
And so we kind of got involved. We had a model called the Corona, which was, kind of a tongue-in-cheek name, to
It's
name
with a
it that.
K, yeah.
Yeah, with a K, and it's
Yeah.
our version of a Fender Telecaster, which is made in Corona, California. And so we kind of thought, you know what? I just was getting this one wrapped up. I'm going to put this out there. If someone wants to spend 2 grand, the guitar's normally 3. If they will put 2 grand, show me receipt to, a list of places that we could support, that we kind of pre-vetted and put out there, they can have this guitar. And it sold in like 3 minutes. Well, it sold, and so I was like, well, how about I do the next 2 and build spots? And so we put
Yeah.
those out, and those were gone immediately too. And then so we ended up in that first run, and it kind of worked out cool because it opened up. Like, I have a customer turned out to be a lawyer for the Institute of Justice, and they were arguing Supreme Court stuff, and they were doing all these different organizations that we just kind of outside of my orbit that I didn't know about that we were able to start supporting. So the first round we did that, we were able, I think we capped it at 15 because I started panicking like, we don't have everybody back to work yet. I don't know how far I can go out on this here.
Yeah.
And they're out of pocket for me. Like
Mm,
I didn't want the money to come through us
mhm.
because I didn't want people to be like, oh, we gave you 3 grand and maybe you only put 10% to charity. Like, no, every penny you just show me the receipt
Right.
and I will do it. And we had most of the suppliers we work with are able to kind of help us a little bit on, either shipping or price breakdowns, just a little bit extra on those. So that was the first round we did. And I think we raised about 30 grand. And it was mind blowing to me that we could do that. And then we did kind of and a lot of that wasn't just social justice stuff. It was like food banks, World Central Kitchen's one that we do a lot of support for. I really like those guys. And try to keep it kind of apolitical a little bit,
Mhm.
and so we kind of left it open like, hey, these are the people that we are kind of willing to support. You can pick within that, whatever. And because the one thing I was really worried about, is terrible as it sounds, like I'm very opinionated and I have my opinions, but I really try to keep our business separate from that. I mean, you know how fast that someone's, social
Tell me
media
about
can
it.
become that. And I don't
Yeah.
want, it's not that it's not important to me. Talk to me privately on my personal account. That's fine. I
Mhm.
try to keep my little corner of the internet to be fun and something I enjoy and not dread going to. And that was my big fear about. I was like, oh God, if we do this,
And people don't
you
like
know,
when it's just performative too, in the sense, like,
exactly.
put your money where your mouth is. And
Yeah.
I actually volunteer with the George Floyd Memorial Center, and we have a big event coming up. So I'm so glad you brought up that was a turning point, because I was like, oh, by the way, plug
Yeah.
for that, because they're doing a golf and gala this summer,
Sure.
in the week of his anniversary of his death, the
Yeah.
27th and 28th of that May. But no, I'm glad that that inspired you to do this to help your community, but also with the power of love, sharing music, sharing
Yeah.
art, giving people
Sure.
opportunity to maybe who were wanting to get a new guitar and was able
Yeah.
to do it and help a good cause at the same time,
Well,
especially since
and the
we all
timing was,
needed it.
oh
Yeah.
man, and the timing was so good because it was a new model, so we were still in that, like, usually the first 10 of anything new is kind of like butzing out the little like tweaks on the
Mm.
machines and stuff. So I knew that was going to be kind of a good window to do that, and then it turned into such a thing that I was both proud of and amazed by. We hit it again at like the end of the year before Christmas, like same thing, food banks, and I had donated one of my personal guitars to, like, we did like a combination of like small donation raffle
Yeah.
thing, and then like some more donation full guitar donation spots for the full $2,000 thing. And then that was kind of how we closed out the year, and then we came back to it again uh, during the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Actually, uh,
Mm.
we were kind of watching, like everybody else, watching that just go to hell, and which is a whole other discussion that. But we was like, all right, what can we do again here to help a little bit? And we ended up piggybacking on. It's kind of funny. I don't know if you follow Quentin Quarantino on Instagram. It's a meme account
No.
that started up during the pandemic. It's just a daily meme thing to get through the pandemic, and then this
Yeah.
guy ended up turning into this like fundraising powerhouse. Like okay.
Oh, I need
It,
to follow him.
oh, I mean, it's a funny account, but like it
Yeah.
started the first time he did this. I think was it when Rush Limbaugh died. He started a memorial fund to Planned Parenthood in Rush Limbaugh's name, which I thought was genius. And so but he ended up like, I didn't know where to help outside of like maybe the Red Cross, and he had this fundraiser going that was with like a humanitarian slash PMC airlift group that was getting people out,
Mm.
right there at the end. And so they, they don't have it. He has no idea we did this. We didn't do
Mm.
anything. It just seemed like, well, this is the most vetted thing I can find in the, you know, 36 hours where everything was going crazy. And so we opened up the same exact donation thing again, and also food bank or World Central Kitchen, and we raised. I'm still let's put it this way, I'm still building those guitars because we had to book it out all the way through 2022. Like I didn't have the heart to close
Wow.
it down, but I had to start telling people, I'm like, okay, this is how many I can handle per quarter. And I think
Yeah.
I know collectively we raised over $100,000 this whole time in the last year and a half.
Wait. How many zeros?
100,000. Yeah.
Because
Not just in this
when I
last one,
Google, it's
but
just
from the beginning.
30,000. So
Yeah.
that's
It,
amazing.
yeah. It's,
Congratulations.
thank
Like,
you.
you have a really great customer base. 'Cause, I mean, just to think of them actually, $100,000 in guitars, because your price point's about 4, 6,000, right?
It's between 3 to 5. Yeah. And
Oh,
so
well,
those guitars are
time for a
about,
price hike.
yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
Including
it's
shipping. No, okay.
overdue for going up. But yeah,
Yeah, but
it's,
yeah, wow.
it's
That's a
50
lot of
Coronas that we've
guitars.
donated. Yeah. Uh, it's been
And that's
nuts.
the kind of Corona people don't mind catching.
Yep.
Dun-dun-dun.
Yeah. I do get, unfortunately, the drag to that name is every Instagram post that has a Corona, I get the COVID warning. But also maybe that's
Oh,
not the worst to, help
yeah,
continue to spread good information out there.
very true.
But yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I'm not, ironically we joke about being Catholic and stuff. I'm not overly religious. I grew up Catholic and stuff. But I am a more of a big karma guy. And
Mhm.
I knew we were one of the few industries that not only got through the pandemic, but blew, we're busier than I've ever been in my entire life. And which is frustrating with the supply side issues, but I got through that thinking, man, everybody, you look at these lines at food banks and stuff, and I'm like, we got
Mhm.
to see what we can do to help. I owe the universe that,
Yeah.
I've been real
Oh,
fortunate like that. So it was really good. I think, ironically, in 15 years of doing this now, the things I can hold my hat or hold my head up about really isn't necessarily always the guitars or our artists. I kept everybody paid during the pandemic. No one actually had to draw on unemployment, and all the donation stuff we were able to do. Um, that's the stuff I'm really proud of.
the cower of love. It's funny because I always say cower power, or I'll say it cower rhymes with flower. And so when I
Yeah.
saw that hashtag for the first time and you had the song playing, I was like,
Yeah.
brilliant. So I want to make sure if there's any last things you want to share, because I'm trying to keep it down to 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Although, because
Oh,
the
I'll go for
algorithms and all that
days.
stuff.
Yep.
I've done interviews that were 3 hours because I'm
Sure.
just that curious. I will talk forever. And the reason I started my show from home, because I was on radio and did a
Yeah.
radio segment, was because I knew I'd go crazy only having two people to talk to
Yep.
when I'm used to constantly working around people, entertaining
Sure.
people, going to events. Like, I needed something, and thankfully,
Yeah.
there was something I could do from home. So
Yep.
share with everyone what, any last thoughts you'd like to share, and also how they can keep following you and keeping
Sure.
up with Cower Guitars.
Well, we are. I like to think that I'm the most famous cower on Google. I'm not, I'm sure, but I am definitely easy to find if you just search cower and guitars. But it's cower guitars, everything. Instagram's that way. We don't do
He's
much on
like,
Facebook
"You
these
said
days,
that
but
to my face?" No, I'm kidding.
that's why I said I'd like to
You
think
raised
that I know I'm.
$100,000, you're definitely more famous
Yeah,
than
I'm well disseminated, at least
me.
through the internet. But well, I don't know. My brother would argue he might be more famous than me, but that's fine. We like to have that argument. But no, I love doing this business, and it is a fun. It is. I always tell people it is the most enjoyable form of poverty you can have, because we like the first rule I tell people. Oh man, every time I get like new guitar builders that I meet, they're like, oh, how'd you get into it and everything. I'm like, dude, rule number one, you got to marry somebody with a real job who has health benefits. Like that is rule number one. And
Yeah,
yeah, and you make
thanks to
that person
UPS.
very happy all the time, because I just live off of
Hey, nixed on that part. What are you doing here? Thought we were friends. Come on,
Yeah.
Grace. Now he's going like, "You gotta make me happy all the
Oh man,
time.
well,
Doug said it."
you gotta, yeah. I'm very fortunate in that regard, but
Yeah.
I had a buddy one time said something to me, and it kind of rings true. You got to be dumb enough to start and stubborn enough to stick with it. And I've been lucky that way. What I make is what I want to make, and luckily it seems to have caught. It hasn't caught fire. It's been a long 15-year slog to get where we're at, but the growth has been nice and steady because of that. And the best way I can describe it is like, I mean, you're from California. Elk Grove is a tiny town, or used to be a tiny town. And even though I live in Sacramento, and we say Sacramento because it's easier to find on the map, we're
Yeah,
not the
second.
music. We're not the music town of California. Usually people we deal with, we go see in the city or something else like that. I've had times where, okay, Brad pays a guitar player, his main guy Gary, he plays our stuff. So whenever they come to town, we get to go hang on stage and have free beer through the entire concert from 3 feet behind Brad and a foot behind Gary's rig. And like Tom DeMont from No Doubt plays my stuff, and he's my favorite story because Tom.
Now you dropping names?
Oh man, okay, I'll drop them quick and then I'll let you go. So Tom,
Especially No Doubt. Oh my gosh.
oh man,
Gwen Stefani was my girl in the night. Like, I
oh yeah.
grew up listening to her and Things Are Bananas. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No. So he bought a guitar. Okay,
Mm.
so the way we kind of do things, you can order guitars custom. You can buy, if we have inventory or we have dealers now. So very rarely do I get a custom order like that just shows up on our website with no emails ahead of time. And like, so it comes in. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. Looked at the name, didn't think twice about it. Like, just put it on the clipboard and put it on the production schedule. And then
Yeah.
about halfway through building that guitar, we were like, it must have been over the summer because I was having lunch with my wife and I was like, we were just out of money again, like the every 3 day scenario. And I was putting this guitar up on Reverb, which is like an eBay for guitar stuff. And they had like a mobile app. So I was doing it. We had just finished it. I was doing it while we were eating lunch. And I was like, man, if we can sell this guitar quick, we'll live to fight another day. We'll be in good shape again until this other one is done. I can get paid on. And it sold. Like, I got it listed, and 10 minutes later it sold while we're eating lunch. I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I get a message from the guy, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm Tom. I have that custom order on order. And I freaked out because I'm like, oh God, if he doesn't like this guitar, not only will I have an issue with this one, I'll have an issue with the one that's on order. And I'm like, God, I hope he likes it. So we
Yeah.
shipped it out, and same thing. Like, I didn't think twice about the name. It's just another customer. And then
Right,
like a
right.
month later, my phone blows up from like 9 different people at the same time. They're like, why aren't you telling me you sold a guitar to Tom DeMont? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was playing, Tom has a band, Dream Car, which is everybody from No Doubt except for Gwen. And it's Davey Havoc from AFI is the singer. And it's like this 80s throwback pop band. And they had just gone out on the road. And like the first pictures from that made it on Instagram. And he's playing that guitar. And I had like no idea it was that Tom. And so I
Yeah.
sent him a message, and like, because we had just gotten this other guitar done. I'm like, hey, I really appreciate you playing this. And, we didn't know it was you. And then, it's not like his email is like, I'm the dude from No Doubt at Gmail, and
Wait, let me email that. I'm the
yeah,
dude from No
somebody
Doubt.
might have that email for that. And so like, I
I
told
will
him, like,
have it by the end of the show.
oh
No, I'm
man,
kidding.
no, definitely. And I was like, hey, and the other guitar kind of ran long because it had one step of the process that it was like an option that we don't do in house, and it just took forever. And I was like, hey, I want to give you, a discount for how long it took, and it's a thank you. And he emailed me like, I said, no, you're going to send me the full invoice. He's like, I
Mm.
know how hard it is to make it and how lucky I've been to have made it, and
Wow.
I want to pay full price. And so when they came through town, we got to hang out, and he's like the
Oh, that's
sweetest
so
guy.
sad. Yeah.
And he's one of those guys,
So do you have him autograph any of your guitars?
I haven't. Yeah.
I'm
I try
just
not to do
saying
that.
that could be another fundraiser.
Yep. But we have,
Celebrity
my kind of
endorsed. Yeah.
everybody pays slash, not to break PG-13 here. We have a no assholes policy, and I just
Mm.
don't. He's one of those guys I love. Dennis Casey from Flogging Molly's the same way. Like, we just get an occasional message from out of the blue, like when they're not on tour,
Yeah.
like, oh man, just playing this thing in the studio, love it, hope you're doing great,
Oh, that's
and so
awesome.
it's pretty crazy to me to be this relatively, no, we're 7
I
people around
mean,
the shop,
yeah, I'm sure the teenage version of you too is like, "Dude."
yeah.
So, I
Oh
mean, that's
man.
what happens to me sometimes. I'm just like, "This is your life, it's worth it." Like,
Yep.
if you get to do this, everything was worth it, so I
I
get
lied.
it.
One more, and then I'll
Oh,
let you go.
okay,
Uh,
because I do have
in that same
another one.
regard, okay.
Mhm.
My dad, I was born in '83. My parents were born in the mid '50s. So, like all white men born in the mid '50s, he's a Steely Dan fanatic. Like, just that's unavoidable. You can't have been in high school in 1974 and not apparently also love Steely Dan. And so Walter, all it sounds like a big flex to say Walter Becker played our stuff. Walter was a guitar fanatic, so he played everyone's stuff. But we kind of even early in the business, like we got hooked up with him through a friend of a friend, and so the coolest flex I ever got was I got to take my dad. The last time that Steely Dan came through town when Walter was still alive, and Dad got to go hang out backstage, BS with Walter for a half hour, hang out in like primo seats for the actual show. And I remember thinking that exact thing. I'm like, I'm just a random dude. And when I was 16, first of all, I didn't, I wanted to be a teacher. And what a weird, like, you got into making cabinets because you started making toys for us when we were little kids on a Shopsmith. And then I got into working for you because I didn't have a choice. And then I got into building guitars because of the recession. And now you're hanging out with the band that you've idolized your whole life because your kid, this weird, like, it's just, those
No.
things are surreal to me.
I mean, it's almost like being able to afford to buy your parents a home. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still like the ultimate goal is being able to.
Yep.
And even with this, like sometimes I'm like, I just want to retire my husband so we can travel together and he's
Yep.
not so stuck to his job. But at the same time, when you brought up that B word, benefits, I'm one of those people that is getting at that age where benefits are necessary, a necessity in
Yep.
life. Like
Yep.
I need to be able to go without worrying about paying my mortgage to go see
Oh
a
man.
doctor. But needless to say, I just loved being able to chat with you, hearing all the
Yeah.
different ups and downs and things that you've gone through. And it's true. Like this is the reason why I love doing my show is to keep people inspired, to realize, yeah, sometimes you're going to have these low valleys, or you're going to
Yep.
realize your friends can only support you in certain ways, the free
Yep.
ones. But you're going to find people who are going to be able to say, no, I'm paying full price. This is a great
Yeah.
instrument. You're doing great work. You
Yep.
deserve it. And so wait for that,
Yeah.
champion for
It's
that. Yeah.
well,
And
I
that's
made
our
almost
alarm
the
clock.
entire yeah. Well,
Oh,
thank you
no.
so much. It's been
Yeah, it was my
way overdue.
pleasure. Way overdue. So now we're connected. We'll have to hang out more. And I'm
Yep.
going to do a quick plug again for George Floyd's Memorial Center. If you donate to George Floyd Memorial Center, you too can get this beautiful handmade art pin by local artists here in North Carolina. George Floyd's paternal family is from North Carolina. He was actually born here in North Carolina. And they're doing this wonderful initiative, the George Floyd Memorial Center, where it's a community center in Southern Raleigh that's going to encourage art careers, digital
That's
careers,
fantastic.
really helping inner city youth get those chances to pursue their
Sure.
passions, their dreams. And their goal is also to try to help bridge those gaps between the police community. So it is more community policing. And I'm just really proud of everything they're getting ready to do. And I love being a part of them. And they've brought me on as an honorary family member. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
anytime somebody brings up George Floyd, I'm like, oh, and I just got my pin myself from working with them. And I'm just like, we're doing a thing next summer, hopefully in Senegal, where it's going to be this whole big art, public art piece where they're going to show all the different like all the different people who have fallen at the hands of police and welcome home type of ceremony and stuff. And I'm just like, I grew up military brat and family and film. I've never felt home anywhere. So when they were like, "You're gonna get to go home," I'm like, I have a like, wait, because even like when people ask where's your hometown, I'm like, well, I was born in Louisiana, but then we moved to California, Stanislaus, so not far either.
Sure.
And then most of my childhood development years, I was in Germany, Turkey, and Holland, and
Jeez.
then
Yeah.
26 schools in America. So like, well, not 26, only America. 5 of those were in Europe. But yeah, so 21 schools in America,
Well
not
traveled.
including college. So I don't really have that like California is home to me because
Sure.
that's where I got to pursue most of my dreams at.
Yeah.
And I was going to say this earlier because one of the skincare lines that we carried at one of the spas I was the director for, it said on the back, we don't test on animals, we test on celebrities. So I was thinking that when you were talking about your guitars,
I may have
like,
to steal that. That's really good.
yeah, I think I might have made the verbiage a little more fun because it was, I don't think they mentioned that, but yeah. So needless to say, I was like, Smart. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And please tell the rest of the cowers hello. And, Clifford Gilkey and his wife, Peggy Gilkey, who is a former cower, my in-laws, they wanted to say they enjoyed, their visit to your
Oh,
shop.
good.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I I took their comment down and forgot to mention it earlier, but yeah, there they
Oh,
are.
I'm so
So
glad we could have them there. I'm hoping we'll see how things are going. Maybe we can do our open house again this summer. It's 3 days. It's 2 years overdue, and or
yeah.
3 years because the year
Keep me
we
posted. I
yeah
have, travel credits due to my, Southwest not canceling my or not giving my
yep
money back for my
yeah I'll
canceled
keep
trip
you
to
in the loop.
LA. So, I have money to burn in travel tickets anyway, so keep me posted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well,
Alright,
thank
well,
you so
thanks
much.
again. No, this
Hmm.
was my pleasure, and have a great day, and I'll see you on the gram.
Sounds good.
Alright.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today for another wonderful episode of the E Spot with Camille. Next Thursday will also be live, and on Fridays, I'm pre-recording interviews with film professionals, and we're going to do filmmaker Fridays. And so if you have any questions or anything you want to learn more about the film industry, make sure you email me, message me, Instagram me, slide into my DMs, whatever it may be, and we can talk more about, or I can make sure your questions are brought up, or join me live and I will obviously shout you out. So thank you so much to everyone that made comments. Byron, my cousin. Um, I'm not even gonna try to read your name because it's a lot of numbers and letters, so I don't know what that would stand for. But thank you for hanging out because I see you're friends with Byron as well, the comedian who was also on my show. Super hilarious guy. If you're in the Baltimore area, make sure you check out his shows. And of course, the Cower family, Gilkey family up in California. Also, I appreciate you guys watching as well. So thank you again for being my guest and thank you for watching and see you next week.